Is there anybody out there that's going to be able to beat George Brockler, the Republican candidate, the Aryan Nation Republican candidate, who looks like Boy George, right? Who looks, he's the dashing Aryan Nation George Brockler, who's in favor of the death penalty. He's going to push to make sure Nathan Dunlap gets killed. Doug Robinson, I see his advertisements all over the place, but Doug Robinson isn't going to beat George Brockler. Doug Robinson is against Medicaid, okay? He's against universal health care. He wants to make sure that nobody in Colorado has any health care. So with the new Trump administration, with new Trump care, that'll be interesting to see how that turns out. I think we need to resist. We need to fight back. We can't have a Trump sycophant in there. We need someone that will stand up to this bullshit. So Doug Robinson is out. That's on the Republican side, right? Doug Robinson could take George Brockler out. Maybe this George Allen Cantrell. Who is George Allen Cantrell? I don't know. I will know later on. On the Democrat side, former state treasurer Kerry Kennedy, can she beat George Brockler? Congressman Ed Perlmutter, can he beat George Brockler? Denver businessman Noel Ginsburg, can he beat George Brockler? How about former state senator Michael Johnston? Okay, so here's a picture of Michael Johnston. Now, I am kind of excited about him and Kerry Kennedy. Or Ed Perlmutter's been in there for a long time, and I don't know much about Joel Ginsburg. But being that they're Democrats, right, I'm going to assume that they care, about health care. They care about the people. So whereas Doug Robinson is going to get rid of Medicaid, when it comes to saving Medicaid, Michael, very superficial level, which really has nothing to do with politics whatsoever. Michael Johnston has got the look. He's got the steely blues. He's got the fancy highlighted hair. He does wear ties with his buttoned-down collar. If the collar buttons down, you don't put a tie on it. So he's not huge into fashion, okay, but that doesn't matter at all. None of that matters, actually. The only thing that matters, the reason why that would matter is just because some of the dummies might vote for him. It's like, hey, he looks like a good man. You got a little man crush on him? Not a man crush. I want to marry that man. So, I don't know if Michael Johnston is progressive enough. That's essentially the question for all the Democrats. Are they progressive enough, or do I need to look for an independent to support? So Michael Johnston could be the man to stop George Brockler. A little bit about Michael Johnston. He worked in Mississippi as a teacher. He was one of the poorest districts in Mississippi. I wonder if that was with, was that Team America or some sort of program, Teach for America. But he taught in one of the poorest districts in Mississippi. So automatically, that shows some character. A rural high school in Greenville, Mississippi for 2 years, part of the Teach for America program. Ha! I knew it. It says after his program ended, Johnston enrolled in the Harvard Graduate School of Education, earning a master's degree in education policy. While at Harvard, Johnston worked with Al Gore education advisor John Schnur, and they helped found new leaders for new schools and organization dedicated to training and recruiting leaders for urban schools. Okay, I can understand this man. I don't know if he came across Paulo Freire about how the oppressed are. Michael Johnston was born November 17th, 1974, so he would be 8 years older than me, so 43 years old, 42. And he was born in Vail, Colorado. It's where he was born and raised. He's the son of the former Vail mayor, Paul Johnston. After graduating from Vail Mountain School in 1993, he attended Yale University, earning his bachelor's degree in philosophy in 1997. So he's volunteered at Denver Homeless Shelter, mentored youth in the New Haven Housing Project. This guy's all over the place, okay? I'm very impressed with his resume. He was the senator, a Colorado senator for the 33rd District for 2 terms, from 2009 to 2017. So for, 8 years, he's put in his time. He's a senator, right? He was a senator, I think 2 terms. It's 8 years. Why wouldn't it be 2 years? The term limits, this is his final term in the state Senate. And actually, you're allowed to run for state Senate again after you've had a 4-year hiatus. So you skip a term and then he could come back. But for right now, Mike Johnston has nothing else to do. He's got to run for governor. He's actually got a powerful family. He lives with his wife, Courtney, and they have 3 children, Seamus, Emmett, and Ava. And then Courtney, I guess Johnston, theoretically, is a Denver district attorney who prosecutes crimes against children. She's a district attorney. Is that the only prosecution she does? I don't know. If she's a district attorney, that means she's an elected position, and he's got a prosecutor in his pocket, right? So the Michael Johnston comes from a powerful family. He was part of Barack Obama's presidential campaign, and he was one of Obama's key advisors on education. In 2010, Michael Johnston was highlighted by Time magazine as one of the 40 rising stars of American politics under 40 years old. There's sponsored legislation here. I'm just going to name the title of it, so I don't know. He bans the law enforcement use of the chokehold. I like that. Why do you need to go around choking people? That's how they killed, Eric Garner in New York City with the chokehold. And then extend statute of limitations for sexual assault. That's another good thing. So that means if sexual assault happened now, there's the statute of limitations is extended. So even if it happens, 10 years later, you still will be able to go after the person who sexually assaulted you. The study organization recodify Title 12, expunge arrest records based on mistaken identity. See, one thing that I didn't like, it says here unlawful manufacture of marijuana concentrate. So is that to make sure nobody can produce hemp oil? Hemp oil is a kind of medicine, and that's going after regular people. With the 2 explosions that happened in Colorado, the only ones that had arrest that happened was because of the marijuana, creating the hash oil, taking marijuana and soaking in alcohol all of a sudden as a lab. And he put these ball glasses in the refrigerator, it blew up. But then you had that explosion, in Denver at Firestone, and killed people. 2 people are dead, but nobody went to jail for that. So exempt lawyer trust account funds from unclaimed property. I don't know, revisor's bill, felony offense for repeat DUI offenders. Okay, I don't increase penalty, sexual exploitation of child. Assessment ratio for residential real. A couple other ones. I'd really have to delve into it, not delve. And it's private company, accurate criminal history data, assault by strangulation. These are just the titles of the bill. The public school fund, alternative fuel motor vehicle income tax credits, tenancies 1 month to 1 year, parks and wildlife, com and landowner agreement, modern technology, education in public schools, Aspire to College, Colorado pilot program. He sponsored a lot of legislation. A lot of legislation has been signed by the governor, so he has gotten a lot of legislation passed, which means he knows the business of government. In fact, I'm not even questioning his expertise. His resume is perfect. It's wonderful. I want a little bit of roughness around the edges, okay? There's nobody that perfect. If somebody comes across as saying that they're perfect, well, I don't know. That makes me a little bit nervous. I want a little rough and tumble. And then with that protection, comes to the issues that I believe in, that I agree with, there's, very specific ones that I have. I want ranked choice voting. I want to make sure the legalization of marijuana is protected. And I want something to be done with the homeless. And I believe in universal health care. And, those are the general ones. So make sure you care about poverty, protect the legalization of marijuana, increase democracy. His issues doesn't say anything. He's going to fight for our rights, but he only talks about women have a right to birth control, not abortion. He's talking about having clean Colorado, so that's a good thing, right? Great schools, taxes and infrastructure, jobs for all, health and safety. Very generic, general things, but they, health and safety, he's for universal health care, I think. I think he's for Medicaid, so that's good. Let's keep that up. Taxes and infrastructure, he's looking for innovative solutions to Colorado's financial and infrastructure challenges. I like that he was a former teacher. I think he was a principal too, and so he's in favor of great schools, which I believe. He cares about the poor. He cares about, the distressed in the community. He believes in jobs for all, so that's a good thing. It's not constitutionally required for politicians to, have job creation programs, but they should. That should be their main job, is to provide jobs for the public, because in America, if you don't have a job, then you don't have a right to live. So even though it's not constitutional, yes, you should be helping the American people get jobs or get a guaranteed income. Land reform. I want some land reform too. That's how you want to end poverty, get land reform, or do what Martin Luther King Jr. and that other Chicago boy Milton Friedman wants, and that's a guaranteed income. Everybody gets a guaranteed income. All that marijuana taxes, everybody gets $10,000. News items with Michael Johnston. Nearly 70% of the money that's been donated into his campaign in the first quarter 2017 came from outside of Colorado. So I don't think that matters. It matters who they are and what they're trying to give him influence for. They said the list of out-of-state donors includes several supporters of the national education reform movement. Okay, in what direction? More charter schools? Better? What are we doing here? Are we actually going to have Sudbury model schools where there's democracy that's going to be put into the public education system? Or no, we're not going to do that. They said Sheryl Sandberg, Chief Operating Officer of Facebook, donated some money. Howard Wolfson, Director of Education at Bloomberg Philanthropies in New York. Wendy Kopp, founder of Teach for America, the program that gave Johnston his start as an educator. So that's great. Wendy Kopp, right? The founder of the Teach for America. Johnston is actually kicking ass. He's already raised $632,000, and then they said $445,000 came from outside. But he's raised over $500,000. So good for Mike Johnston. Michael Johnston he's got to beat George Brockler. Brockler just seems inevitable. People want change, right? Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. This is the wave of republicanism. But this is where the resistance happens, right? In 2 years, yeah, Trump won this time. More, Republicans are going to win. But in 2 years, a lot of Democrats are going to start winning. Because it's reactionary. It happens every time. It's so stupid. It's just like a back and forth, like, what do they call those, big swinging things, pendulum. The pendulum just goes back and forth between the two-party system. He's a rising star of the Democratic Party. His education reform bona fides are well known nationally. He's the architect of Colorado's landmark 2010 teacher evaluation law. Colorado's landmark 2010 teacher evaluation law ties teacher performance to the academic growth of their students. Compared to the campaigns of the last two Democrats to win gubernatorial elections, Johnston brought in far more out-of-state money. Again, I mean, who are these people? The CEO, somebody from Facebook, somebody from Bloomberg Philanthropies, and then the founder of Teach for America. So the founder for Teach for America has given him money. That's amazing. That means he's got so much influence that he taught for Teach for America. Please hire me. And then once he got hired on, then he goes to Mississippi. And now, just 10, 20 years later, she's like, hey, can I give you some money? And he's got a good campaign. So I expect actually a lot from Michael Johnston, but because he's polished and he looks perfect, I'm not sure if he's going to do the things that I want him to do. Donations are capped at $1,150 per election cycle. Other political and issue-oriented organizations can raise an unlimited amount of money to influence elections but cannot coordinate with campaigns. That's PACs, right? Other political and issue-oriented organizations. You have other Democrats, Ed Perlmutter and Kerry Kennedy. They did not file campaign finance reports. Noel Ginsburg, the CEO of Intertech Plastic, is also running for the Democrat nomination. He reported raising $152,372 during the first 3 months of the year. So in terms of money, Michael Johnston is the man to beat in the Democratic primary. Noel Ginsburg, it seems like in terms of money, he's getting up there. Ed Perlmutter and Kerry Kennedy is having, more of a lag time. But then again, we still have another year and a half before November 6, 2018 is even here. Victor Mitchell, he's a former Republican state lawmaker. He donated $3 million to his own gubernatorial campaign. So even though, Mike Johnston raised over $500,000, this other guy, Vic, what did I say his name was? Vic something. He has put $3 million already in, so he's already running circles around Mike Johnston, and it's his own money. So, Victor Mitchell. Okay, I see you, Victor Mitchell. Then I got Lou Gator, a Larimer County Commissioner. And then Joanne Silva, a retired banker. So these are names that, are on Wikipedia but not on Ballotopia. And they both have their issues. I like them both. I rely on them a lot. Both, the Secretary of State should have something that's, easy to read and understand. They should pass out who's running. And anyways, so sponsoring that bill about the marijuana concentrates, I don't like that. I think that actually goes against small businesses and entrepreneurs. So him protecting the legacy of the legalization of marijuana, I am not hearing anybody speak about marijuana at all. It's still like a topic that they don't want to broach. Michael Johnston, he is one great thing. He wants, his first campaign promise was free in-state tuition. Fucking A, sign me up. Get some free fucking college out here. Okay, he cares about education so much. He wants everybody to be educated. It's about goddamn time. All these other European countries, Scandinavian countries, they have free education because they want an educated population. They don't want a bunch of stupid fuckers running around here. And so that helps with standard of living. It helps with a lot of stuff. Victor Mitchell was the man that, donated $3 million. And then George Brockler, he's got no controversy. Old article about a Michael Johnston, and he allegedly shoots up a public dock and poops his pants. This is Huffington Post, David Moy, April 23rd, 2013. So it's safe to say April 9th was a crappy day for Orlando resident Michael Johnston. David Moy, he's a pretty funny man. The 44-year-old arrested for allegedly shooting up a public dock. He admitted to pooping his pants while being questioned. So, he shoots up the public dock. They say, hey, were you the one shooting everybody at the public dock? And he was like, and then, they got the straight shit, they got the straight poop from his mouth. And nobody was injured in the incident. He was drinking, so he had 8, drinks and fired shots at a glass bottle. So 20 shots were fired. There were bullet holes and other damage. And then Boy actually has a history of all the poopers in Florida. He's like, if Virginia's for lovers, then Florida's for poopers. He says that Sherry Barnes, 32, was arrested after allegedly threatening to take a shit on someone else's lawn. I'm going to take a shit on your lawn. She was arrested for that threat. And then Brenda Schumann discovered her husband in bed with another woman, and she responded by shitting and urinating on the floor before going on an armed rampage throughout the house. She said, I found him in bed with a naked chick. What else was I supposed to do? Most outrageous Florida pooper is Gregory Matthew Bruni. He's 21 years old. He got naked, climbed on the roof of a home, jumped down into the house, attacked one of the homeowners, then decided to masturbate. He pooped in 2 different places on the floor, and he drank the contents of a spilled vacuum cleaner. So, Florida and pooping. In the education, he knows a lot about education. I don't know if he's, I feel like he's too in the system. Can he break out of the mold? Well, can he get a Sudbury model schools for the schools is where we should learn democracy. And if the teachers and the principals aren't using democratic principles, then nobody's going to be using democratic principles. So the Sudbury model schools should be implemented. It's cheaper, it's better, it's more effective, and it's true education. It's education for liberation, not education for oppression. So he did something, the architect behind the state's teacher evaluation system. I do think performance should be tied with academic performance. That makes sense. Did any of your students learn? Nope. Well, who gives a shit? Get right back in there. So tenure has been eliminated, but I do think, of course, right, that's the measure of a good teacher. Did any of your students learn? No, they didn't. Well, you're fired, okay? Or yes, they all learned and they're all going to Harvard. Oh, okay, well then you get a bonus. You get a promotion. That makes sense. The biggest thing is he's a serious candidate. He's got this money. He knows the ins and outs of governing. I mean, anybody can sign a fucking bill, to be honest with you. And the governor is, I don't know, I think it's like the, it really determines, how do you, as Coloradans, how do Coloradans see themselves? And so the governor, there's something about the elected monarch, right, to the state. So he has a lifetime opportunity promise for opportunity for any Coloradan to have access debt-free to 2 years of either career training or post-secondary education. It was a way to get them the skills that they need. 2 years isn't enough, but it's a good start. It's a good start. College should be free. There should be free tuition. Absolutely. I mean, how many older people in their 50s and 60s wouldn't mind just to go, learn something about the 14th Amendment? So him promising free education is my favorite thing, but he's not. So I just needed to throw the disclaimer out that other Michael Johnston was not the same Michael Johnston running for office. I just felt like I had to say that. I know it seemed like it was obvious, right? I mean, wasn't it? You think he pooped on the bed? And I'm just going to go ahead and read this on out, okay? So this is Michael Johnston verbatim. I think the other ones are what we could do to build a world-class education system that will keep up with that in both the K through 12 world and our early childhood education. I think the third is how does Colorado harness the infrastructure we need to support that, which is a question of transportation, it's a question of energy, it's a question of water, it's a question of natural resources and built resources we're going to need to move people and products over the next 30 years. I think we have a looming crisis in all of those areas. I do have a plan. We'll be coming out with a more comprehensive layout of the policy over the next coming months